Hey, welcome back to the vlog. It's Aaron Hendon with Living on Vashon. Today we are interviewing, you aren't, I am. I'm interviewing Lauren and Jake from the Ruby Brink. Now, the Ruby Brink is my favorite restaurant on Vashon. And I'm thinking my favorite restaurant in Seattle, now that Mike moved, Il Vino in West Seattle's up there. There's a couple others that are up there, but really on Vashon, I don't think, for me, it's not even close. Ruby Brink is great. And Jake and Lauren talk about the whole history. There's a third partner, Rustle, who was not available for the interview, but the three of them have done such a, I think, amazing job. Okay. It's a great interview and a great story. And they're going to talk about, they got started before the pandemic and they made it. It's a butcher shop, restaurant, bar that's just, it's a perfectly executed vision, and I love it. So if you're ever on Vashon, plan on a meal at the Brink. Just there's zero reason not to plan on stopping into the Brink. There's really almost nothing else to do on our island. But I just think it's fabulous, and I was delighted that they gave me the time, and it's great that I get to consider them neighbors. And I really do think they're spectacular people and a great set of restaurateurs. So with that said, enjoy the interview with my friends, Lauren and Jake. So I want to know the history of it. I want to know how you guys got started with it. It's an interesting combination of people involved. Wherever you want to start talking about it would be great.
Cool. Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of it comes from all of us working in restaurants pretty much as our only jobs. I mean, we've done other things, but I've been working in a restaurant since I was 14. So I've known, I've built what I like and what I don't like over a pretty long amount of time at this point.
Yeah, same. I got started in restaurants when I was 17.
Yeah.
So it's always been a central part of our lives, in professionally developing over, from a very young age.
Yeah, serving coffee at 5 a.m. at a bakery to waiting tables in weird cafes and coffee shops and bars and just doing all kinds of different things and gaining also from eating out a lot. I think we both really like food a lot and like to eat out a lot. And so you learn what you like and what you don't like, what you appreciate, I think that's something that we really had in common when we met each other and started talking about building this business. We could see right away that we were just yes, we are restaurant people who have an idea about what we want, and we know what we like and we know what we don't like, and we just kind of went from there.
And you had the meat noodle truck.
So just pop-ups. Yeah, so we were doing pop-ups. Rustle, the chef, who's our third business partner, we were doing pop-ups all over the island and in Seattle, and just kind of doing them casually. And then when Jake, we started talking about how we needed a brick and mortar, and that was kind of our next direction. So partnering with Jake to add that cocktail element, he started doing those with us and just kind of built it into this.
Yeah, became really an intuitive match when, my front of house experience and my ability to put a team together at the front and with the bar, we started working together.
I had cocktails at Meat and Noodle, but it was soda and liquor. It was a highball, and that was it. And that was about as in-depth as I got. So it was nice. He came on, he started making syrups and just different things that we didn't really ever think about. So
yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it's an interesting experience just from a user standpoint, because it really does add an element to the restaurant, to the establishment, that there's that kind of continuity all the way through. In my view, I guess, attitude towards it is, what makes a place great is when there's a vision for what it's supposed to taste like, and that vision gets translated into reality. You got a Olive Garden, no one gives a shit what it's supposed to taste like. It's just. But when
salad is good at Olive Garden.
They hit whatever they hit. The breadsticks, But there's a vision. Someone has an idea. It's got to look like this, feel like this, smell like this, taste like this, like that, and then. But that's carried through to the bar, and mostly
in great places it is carried through the bar, but that's interesting that it's a integral part of the partnership.
Mm-hmm.
That you thought that through.
Well, a lot of that came from what we felt like the island wanted or would benefit from.
Yeah.
It was both what we wanted to see as people who lived here, as residents first. We hadn't been here long, respectively, before we endeavored on the project. But we were here long enough to know that there was some missing pieces in terms of just the types of establishments. And one of those things was one of what we were able to target was the environment that was casual but served great food.
Yeah.
And so it was usually one thing or the other, right? You had to kind of maybe put on a certain type of hat to go and get food that was worth its salt, and then or you were trading it for an ultra casual environment that maybe didn't hit the notes that real appreciators of food or people that wanted sourcing of food as a priority for their restaurant wasn't really there for the more casual spots. So how do we strike that balance of creating a bar that is food forward, that allowed, and the bar element allows us to throw amazing food in a way that doesn't scare people away. They just come in and they can get a beer or they can get a nice cocktail, and either way feels very natural, and then they can focus on their dinner.
Yeah.
So
I know when you first opened, and this was, I don't remember how long before the pandemic you were open. How long before the pandemic?
We were open for 9 months.
9 months. Just enough to get fucked.
Just enough to get a footing with the community.
Yeah.
I think that's what we reflect on that. And if it had been any shorter, we wouldn't have been able to develop the trust with our islanders. And we were able to do that just, I think, in the nick of time. So when we had to pivot for the pandemic, we had a following. Right. People knew what we were about.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's true. And
that was critical.
And you really did pivot. I mean, there was takeout and all the other ways that you made that work. I remember in the beginning there was, you were open till 11, 7 nights a week. Wasn't that there was some big amount of
we
time
used to be open, when we were first opened, the idea was to be open 7 days a week, 11 to midnight.
Right.
And that was our original idea. And then we realized we needed one day off.
Yeah.
So I think we were closed on Wednesdays, and then when the pandemic happened, we were open 7 days a week.
Yep.
We just stayed open every single day. And then now we're closed on Mondays, which is the day that makes the most sense here on island. Yeah.
Right. And then you're you just put there your lunch.
Jake's lunch.
Thank you. Excellent. And are you still open to midnight? 11 to midnight?
We're not. We're open till 10 now. Yeah.
Because I remember reading it. I was like, oh yeah, let's see how long this lasts.
Yeah.
No one goes out to midnight.
I really think, I can only guess, right? But we were building a following of people that would get off the 10:25 boat and come in and eat. And the pandemic just halted that. So
when it changed the way people commute.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
So now people don't really commute. People don't go out to the city as much. It's all kind of different. And really, it just has changed the demographic of late night eating and drinking on Vashon in a real way. And so we're not even seeing, we'll see what this summer, this is the first summer where it's really opened up and where we're not really under the thumb of the pandemic anymore. So we'll see if there is if there are people coming in at 11 trying to get food, but I just don't think that, I think it disrupted something that we were really working towards.
Yeah. Yeah, and it might be an if they build it, they will come kind of situation.
Yeah.
But we have to be smart about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We're taking our time.
Great. And were you surprised by anything in particular about the success, or is it something that was harder than you imagined?
About the business itself? I think
or something that was easier than you imagined? Something.
I think what regularly comes to mind for me is while we were building it, it was impossible for people to understand what we were trying to do with a butcher kitchen and a bar. It no matter how many times we explained it, and then as soon as we opened our doors, we had people coming in and they went and look around like, oh, okay, that's how this place works.
Right. Did that worry you when you were trying to explain it and everyone was like they couldn't quite get it?
Oh, it was exciting for us. We were like, oh, can't wait to show them how this can work.
Only because we knew, it's one thing if you open a restaurant and you've never worked in a restaurant before. Right. It's another thing if you open a restaurant and you've done years and years of research on what kind of restaurant you want to open. So for us, it was more just building it was the most frustrating part, and people not understanding was the least of our problem, really.
Yeah.
Like, we knew that they would get it once we were
It would be a
open,
surprise.
and they could eat and taste it and figure it out. But it was just, for me, opening was more frustrating than anything.
And what was the frustrating part?
Oh, just this is a really old building,
Yeah.
and we completely gutted the place, so it was just a really frustrating build out. It took 3 years. It was a long time.
Long time.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
And you were renting the whole,
Oh, yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some setbacks that were, just, the worst luck you can imagine, but we
Right.
muscled through amazingly. So
And there was no evidence that anything was going to work in this location.
Right.
I mean, all the evidence points to nothing
Yeah.
lasts in this location.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that had to be some kind of a concern. Like,
No, again, it's the same thing. It's
Same thing.
people opening restaurants who don't work in restaurants. Like, it's a passion project for people. People love food, right?
it's a very romantic
and
endeavor.
they really
right?
want to do it, and it sounds fun, but it's like not that fun unless you already think it's fun.
I don't remember who was talking. It was either Anthony Bourdain or one of that, someone like that. And it was said, look, if you're one of these people that wants a vanity project, and you take your $200,000
Yeah.
and go to the same restaurant anytime you want and tip everyone $200 and you
Yeah.
love the best part of everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Serve
you'll
at the
get
table,
you'll
everything.
get treated like a king.
and none of the headaches, and you'll have the exact same loss.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yep.
So
It's really true because, like, people would say, like, oh, there's no parking and everything, nothing works out here. And I was just like, there's parking everywhere on this island. Like, there's
Nobody.
so much parking that it's
Yes.
unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And really, it's been a bunch of passion projects over the years. And
Yeah.
so we knew, I'd never felt.
Yeah,
Never had
we
a
knew
question.
it was
No.
the spot.
When I moved here, I knew, like, bank to the movie theater.
yeah,
That's where I want my business to be. And as long as it's there, then we're good.
it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, the spot was always, one of the reasons why it looked like a gamble to, I think, a lot of people, to your point. They saw this place just fail over and over again over the last 30 years to keep anybody in it long enough. We almost leaned into that, knowing that finally something could show up that that gave people a reason to cross the sidewalk
Yeah.
Yeah.
or cross the crosswalk.
Yeah.
And so it was fun, and we also knew from that same public sentiment about the space that once people fell in love with whatever was here, that they would get even more behind it
Yeah.
because it would be such a magical thing. I mean, you sit inside and you can look at your community moving
Yeah,
around.
totally.
The four-way stop is constant
Yep.
entertainment.
constant. It's
I mean, it's a
It's like
small
a-
community, so we
Yeah.
all know each other. And being able to see it from this perspective on a cold, rainy night or during the summer,
And to be seen in
super
it.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's super cool. Just
Yeah.
from a
It's
user
fun.
point, like you just get that window seat. You're like, check me
Yeah.
out. That's great.
Yeah.
What's the name come from?
So it took us a long time to find a name. I think that's like
Yeah.
normal for places. But we went to the Vashon Historical Museum and we found all these books with stories about Vashon. And one story that we found was about a girl named Ruby Brink who burned down the Liza Beulah schoolhouse while making hot chocolate for a PTA meeting. And it was by accident, and
No one was hurt?
No one was hurt, but it changed the school districts on Vashon forever. They didn't rebuild, they ended up consolidating the school district instead of rebuilding that schoolhouse.
Who said, okay, that's a good name?
I think
Well, we
all
all
kind of
loved it.
did.
All
Like, we were
three
like,
of us.
Ruby Brink. And it just
We
it's-
chickened out.
It's
actually.
a name, it's somebody's name, but
Right.
it's also words.
Totally.
So it could have like all this different meaning. And the Brink family was one of the first families that settled on the island in the 1800s. So we just thought it was like very Vashon specific, and it just kind of happened after that.
So it was trying to make hot chocolate. So we
trying to
thought
make
it
hot
was
chocolate.
endlessly funny.
Yeah.
It's
Considering no one was hurt, and it really, as the story read it, all the kids were just stoked because they had
The day
2
off.
extra months of a
Yes.
holiday.
yes.
And
yeah.
her grandchildren still live on island, and we definitely checked with them to make sure it was okay and
Yeah.
got their blessing,
They
and
were
they've
into
all
it.
been in and stuff like that.
That's great. I love the new little sign.
Yeah, thank
thanks.
you.
Yeah.
Just everything. So I think, is there anything else I should know about? Anything else you want to promote, or anything else you want to talk about, or anything else you want people to know about the place?
Well, I could just say from a food perspective, we do things a lot differently here than other restaurants. We're a whole animal butcher shop and restaurant, so we only bring in 2 or 3 cows a month, and 4 pigs and whole chickens, and we run the whole place off of these whole animals, which a lot of places don't do. We also take incredible care of sourcing our vegetables and our liquor, so everything is a little bit different than other places, but it's because all of our sourcing and everything that we buy it's all intentional. And so I think that's something that we don't talk about a lot, but we don't just order whatever's cheapest from whoever will bring things to us. We source everything down to our sugar and salt extremely carefully, so that way it's the best product.
That's great. And the whole thing about the whole cow is amazing. I never even thought about it. I mean, I know the thing that, for me, that makes when I think about what's at the heart of the experience for me is the stock. Is like that's everything revolves around meat noodle. Like that stock is like no shit. That's like someone cares how that stock is.
Exactly.
And that's not something people care about in normal course of events. It's like another can of stock.
Exactly. So I think that's the big thing for me.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of elements to our program that, you know, I think a lot of people I think it's important for many restaurants to kind of showcase the fact that, you know, use terms like farm to table, use terms that like put their priorities in front of the menu. We take, in some ways, we don't subscribe to just throwing those marketing terms around lightly. We take ourselves very seriously on that front and stand behind it probably, I mean, more impeccably than any outfit I've ever seen. And people can really trust us on that front, and we always will. Like it's just what we do, and we take our hospitality as seriously. And we have an incredible staff, group of people that care very deeply about what they do and about the way that it feels to be in this space. And we think that whole experience is, you know, hopefully good for everyone, for our community, for the island. So,
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no problem.
It's your lunch and stuff like that. So.
Absolutely.
And